Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to the garage. This is a very exciting video for me, for the channel. It marks a huge sort of change in what we're doing, but I'm just going to get right into it. This is going to be part one of who knows how many hundreds of parts of the GT40 build. And we are, again, like I said, if you haven't seen it, check out the intro video to this whole project I posted recently. It's the most recent video before this one, introducing the project. Essentially building a RCR GT40 kit car, like the one that won Le Mans in 68 and 69. So before we continue on with this video, I wanted to summarize. Today we are going to be looking at this giant box behind me. This is the reason for the video, the main reason. It is the crate motor. It has arrived from Prestige Motorsport, so we are going to be diving into this in a minute. And then fitting a few very cool parts to it. First, I've got some carb studs that I ordered, along with the air cleaner. So what I want to do is open this up, check it out, and get this kind of installed on the engine. Now, the air cleaner is only going on, one, to see how it looks, want to see how it looks on the motor, and two, to keep debris out of the car, because the car itself is not going to be here probably for another 4 or so months, and I wanted to kind of get this all sorted and ready to go for the car when it gets here. Let's go ahead and open this box. I haven't looked at it yet, so genuine reactions here. Okay, so these are the carb studs. We're going to go on the carburetor. Yeah, hold the carburetor down. But this is the main deal that came here. So this is the air cleaner. 17 by 9. There we go. And let's take a look at how this guy looks. Ooh, perfect. So I've got the seal there in the air cleaner and carb. Looks like install instructions, and best of all, the flat black air cleaner from Holley, 17 by 9 with, I believe, a 2-inch filter. I should know that because I just ordered it. Yeah, 2-inch filter. Now I'm thinking back on it. So here we go, keep it together. Oh no. For those of you who aren't familiar with these older motors, this is where the air enters the carburetor. Not so much on new models, but essentially it's the air intake. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and break the lid off on the crate motor, and then take you around and show you what we're working with today. Let's get this guy off. Full disclosure, I did already open this one up. Couldn't help myself. All right, so what we're looking at, I'll just kind of summarize some of the specs on this motor. I've got the Ford Racing valve covers, obviously. By the way, this whole thing came from Prestige Motorsports. If you guys happen to be, for whatever reason, in the market, check them out. The whole experience was great. I got a quote from them in a couple of weeks. Several iterations of the quote back and forth. From the moment I gave them the deposit to the moment I received this was about 5 weeks, maybe 4.5 weeks. Absolutely stunned at how quickly their turnaround was and how excellent they were to work with the whole time. So what do we got? It's a small block Ford 302 stroke to 347. So that is a 347 stroker. We've got a MSD distributor on the top, externally balanced with 28 ounces there. We've got the Edelbrock air gap intake here. This is where we're going to be working tonight with the carb and the carb studs. Got a old school Moroso front sump oil pan down there to fit the chassis. We're going to be relocating this guy once the car is in, but that's going to be way down the road. So I think what I'll do is set you guys up and get started on this carb install, but give you guys some, I know I mentioned this thing, well, I don't know if I did. This thing dynoed at 503.6 horsepower, which, you know, they had quoted me 500, so I'm pleased with that number. And it also puts out 450 pound-feet of torque. Anywhere between 3,500 RPM and 6,500 RPM, the torque curve is very flat. It's somewhere between 420 and about, you know, peaks at 450 and then drops back down to about 430, all the way up at peak RPM. So it's very, very smooth and pretty flat all the way through the power range. So really stoked about this. We've got the Prestige Motorsports CNC machined aluminum headers. Again, this intake is an air gap intake from Edelbrock, and it is also aluminum. This whole crate, so basically everything in here, we got the motor stand, all the wood, the carb, the boxes, the parts. This whole crate weighs 527 pounds. So I know this weighs significantly less, probably closer to 427 pounds. So pretty pleased with this whole setup. I'll set you guys up and we'll take a look at the carb. Okay, first thing we're going to want to do here, installing the carb, is to get the studs in here. And since we've got an aluminum intake manifold and steel carb studs, we are going to need to put on some anti-seize. And you can get that at Home Depot. It's just pretty straightforward stuff. Put some on here. So I'm going to go ahead and get some on all four of these studs, speed around, and come back with you when I'm ready to drop the carb in here. Okay, now that we've got the carb studs in, and you know, finger tight here is fine. We're going into aluminum. We don't need to go nuts. We can go ahead and take the tape off, and we gotta be very careful not to get anything in here. So just very gingerly peel all of this tape back. Okay, it looks like I've got a little bit of residue here from when they may have had the carb on last time. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't pull that off, clean it up a little bit, and then get the gasket ready to drop on for the final carb install here. You can start putting the carb on here, and this seal will only go on one way. If I put it on this direction, it doesn't line up at all. So lay that down and then go ahead and grab our carb. Now this is the carburetor. It is a Brawley 650. I'm going to go ahead and put the fuel intake line on the right of the engine here. I think just because, you know, that's the front up here, front, rear. I'm thinking, and this is possibly going to change, but I'm thinking of using the passenger side fuel tank, which will be up sort of that direction as the main feed here. So that's going to be where this goes. First thing we got to do before we mount anything is just check to make sure the system, the throttle levers will actuate essentially without interfering with the intake manifold, and it looks like they do. So go ahead and place a washer and a nut on each of the studs here, and then we're going to torque these down in a cross pattern, but since again we're going into aluminum on the intake manifold, it's just going to be finger tight. Okay, got the bolts kind of all in place. We're going to do a star pattern. We're not going to go very tight with this, just kind of hand on the top of the wrench here. I'm not using the handle. Go. Time. Make sure we're seated. that is installed. Before we install the air cleaner, I thought I'd take a moment to talk about the carb a little bit more. Again, I mentioned this is the Brawler 650 cubic feet per minute. This is a Ford 347 stroker. I know some people have asked me, why isn't it bigger? Scientifically, I don't know the exact numbers. I do know if you go too big on the carb, the flow rate will drop. All I know is that Prestige did a great job building this, and that this engine, this motor, dynoed at 503.6 horse and 450 pound-feet of torque with this exact carb on it. They literally took this carb off for shipping, sent it with the motor, and basically sent it so that I can reinstall it now. So without further ado, we're going to add the air cleaner. Start by adding your gasket on top there. Then throw your base plate on. Be careful not to hit any of the workings of the carb on top. Make sure you got clearance for all the wires and plugs back there, and we just do. And then next, lay your filter element, and this is the 2-inch filter on top, and I do like the red. Not many elements in the car will be red, but I do like this kind of K&N red color here. Again, this isn't K&N, it's just a Holley filter. I may look to swap it out for K&N filter eventually, but I think this should perform just fine for now. So line things up, lay that on top. There we go. This is what the motor will look like in the car. The rear deck should close just around the air cleaner, so you should really only be able to see the air cleaner peeking out through the rear deck of the car. So I'm going to go ahead and run this air cleaner stud in through here. That should be fine. There we go. And then finish it off with this wing nut. There we go. Okay. Okay, got you out of the tripod there. Show you the motor from a few different angles. Again, this is sort of the rear of the motor. That's going to be facing the passenger seat. So if you're standing at the back of the car, you'll be able to see the Holley logo here. When the rear clam opens up on the rear of the car, this will be sort of facing you. But I am very pleased with how this looks. How clean the carburetor setup is. The Edelbrock air gap intake, again, the idea is the air pockets in here allow for the incoming air to remain separate and cooler from the heat of the motor. That's the theory behind that. Got the cable throttle here. Depending on the setup of the car, I might end up flipping the carburetor 180, but not sure yet. That'll be ways down the road. But for now, this is how I'll leave it. Man, does this look every bit as amazing as I thought it would. So let me know in the comments below what you think of the whole engine setup. If you would change anything, if you're as excited about it as I am. And since this box arrived in October, guys over at Prestige did some holiday themed art here. All right, that'll wrap up the first part one of hopefully very, very many videos to come on this Ford GT40 kit by RCR. Again, we've got a Ford 302 block, Ford factory 302 block stroke to a 347. Mounted the Brawler 650 carb, and as a cherry on top, we've got the Holley air cleaner. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and as always, stay tuned for more.